With WesternUnion.com's 4-star rated mobile app, send money fast virtually anywhere for just about anything. Download the free Western Union mobile app today from iTunes or the Play Store, or visit WesternUnion.com to learn more.
Can you feel it?
Durant for three, bingo! Right down the chute, Kevin Durant.
NBA Lockdown with Bruce Bowen.
Gets it to James. Here's a three for the win. Goal! It is good!
The NBA Lockdown podcast with Bruce Bowen. Along with three-time NBA champion Bruce Bowen, here's ESPN.com NBA columnist Israel Gutierrez.
Welcome into another edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast with Bruce Bowen. I'm Israel Gutierrez. We will be previewing a couple of Game 5s tonight, a couple of critical Game 5s. We're going to start off with the Clippers and the Thunder.
Under 2 minutes remaining. 3-point lead for the Thunder. Paul bounces out right side, pick and roll with Griffin to the glass. Right in with left hand. Fouled by Ibaka. Blake Griffin will head to the free throw line. A brilliant pick and roll executed by Paul and Griffin.
That was ESPN Radio, where Blake Griffin had one of our more impressive finishes late in that comeback effort by the Clippers in Game 4. Now, in this Game 5, it's back in Oklahoma City, Bruce. You saw what the Thunder did in that Game 4, blowing that late lead, had a 12-point lead going into the fourth quarter. It looked for 3 full quarters that game was under control by Oklahoma City. What kind of lingering effect, if any, does this have mentally on a team like Oklahoma City before we start talking about strategically, just the mental aspect of them blowing that lead, and how will it possibly affect them in Game 5?
Well, the opportunity to, soak it all in took place right after the game, Izzy. That's where it happened. That's where guys will kind of mull over things and, kind of feel down for themselves or I don't want to say feel sorry for themselves, but that's when they really take in the whole aspect of what has transpired at that particular moment. As they got on that plane, yeah, you're disappointed that you lost, but at the same time, you understand that that was a game that you could have had and that you're no longer necessarily worried about, oh boy, will this happen to us again, because I do believe that they make the necessary adjustments to it.
Okay, well, let's go to the strategic portion of this game then, because you saw the Clippers have the most success late in that game with Blake Griffin in the center spot, and the Clippers essentially going small. They relied a little bit on Darren Collison to be able to beat his guy off the dribble. They trusted Chris Paul with a healthy dose of double teaming to defend Kevin Durant. Was that a desperate situation where Doc Rivers will only sort of pull that card out if they're down big? Or do you think that's something that he might go too early and just say, hey, just maybe throw the fear into the Thunder and say, hey, look at this lineup. This is the lineup that did you in Game 4. Here it is again early on, and see if that sort of messes with the Thunder? Or do you think, again, it's just sort of a break glass in case of an emergency type of lineup?
Well, see, it's one of those break glass in case of emergency kind of lineups, Izzy. But the faulty part of that is that OKC has had so many opportunities to watch and see what's necessary in order for them to make sure that they can avoid that scenario again. And that's what the playoffs are. You have certain things that work for a hot second in the playoffs where someone can come in and give you a lift. And that's definitely what Darren Collison was able to do. He gave them such a lift that no one really saw coming. It's kind of like when Luke Walton against the Detroit Pistons in the finals that year, he came in and had an impact. But what ended up happening in that series, Detroit still won. They made the necessary adjustments for a player like Luke Walton, and they were able to take away what he was able to bring up until that point. But it's always the ultimate surprise whenever you get a player like Darren Collison. Darren Collison. Man, they got 2 Collisons in this game. I know I'm going to get this wrong at some point. But, when you have a player that does the things that he did, now they become aware. They respect him more. But more importantly, they get execution on the offensive end, Izzy.
Well, you heard it here first. Darren Collison is nothing more than Luke Walton in a Clipper uniform.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's not what you said. Okay.
No,
Sorry about
that's
that.
not what I said.
Okay. All right. Well, what can Oklahoma City do here? Because you had Kevin Durant shoot 50% and give you 40 points. You had Russell Westbrook give you, his all-around game, 27 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. To me, the one element where they can definitely – there's 2 areas. One, you have to find that balance where you between the two of them, they take 46 shots, and the rest of their team takes less than 30. Okay, they take 29 shots. So you've got to be able to get other guys involved. You're big on that, obviously. And frankly, when you're the Clippers and you see how much of an impact you can have by really disrupting Durant and Russell Westbrook, then they want you to be able to take, most of those shots. They want to encourage you to take all the shots for your offense, so they don't have to worry about guys like Ibaka shooting 9 for 10 or Cephalosha having an impact. So there's one area where Durant and Westbrook can get better, and also those turnovers. I mean, this has been an issue since the Memphis series. It's just sometimes just sloppy with the ball, where they're trying to, whether it be against the double team or whether it be just trying to break a guy down and they dribble it off their foot or something like that, or get the Clippers get their hands on the ball too easily. Durant had 8 turnovers in that game, and that's just too many. Are those the 2 main elements where you see them basically having the biggest improvement to make in order to go from, hey, we just stayed close, to winning this game and then closing out this series eventually?
Yeah, and it's the offensive production, Izzy. In that fourth quarter, they got away from what they were doing normally. I said yesterday in our podcast that it's so important to get offensive execution when you are, when you see or recognize certain things that are different than before. And that means patience. They got to have more patience on offense. They can't try to beat the Clippers within the first, say, 3 quarters. They got to realize that they're a professional team. They're very good as well. They're going to make adjustments, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take you being patient, Kevin Durant, coming off of a screen, making sure he sets his guy up first so that he doesn't get an offensive foul, or so he doesn't allow the defender to wedge himself in between the screener and himself, and you end up with a scenario kind of like with Kevin Durant and Tony Allen. I think it's more, that's the key right there, Izzy. It's not that they changed their offense or anything like that, because Reggie Jackson, he's going to be able to have an impact. But again, we talk about the cancellations of the superstars, but it's more about OKC being more productive on offense with their continuity of ball movement and not getting set into just, hey, let's give it to Kevin. Hey, there you go, Russell, it's your turn. They still have to utilize others and move the ball and attack from different positions.
Well, you're not sure what kind of mentality a team has after giving up that kind of lead and losing a game. But it seemed like after the game, Kevin Durant had the right mentality in terms of turning the page in this one.
Every loss is tough to swallow, but we got to have a quick turnaround. We got our next game in a couple days, so we got to turn the page quickly. Can't get too high off of wins and too low off of losses, so we got to figure out what we did wrong and get better at it in Game 5.
That's one way to look at it. It's probably the best way to look at it, so you don't have to harp over, you and Russell Westbrook combining for 67 points and still losing. The one thing about the Clippers, though, Bruce, which kind of surprised me watching the game, is that despite being down 22 points at one point in this game, they only turned the ball over 9 times, the Clippers did. And it led to 14 Thunder points. Yeah, but you would think that to be down that much against this Oklahoma City team, that it would just be a messy game and you'd just be gifting them points. But really, it came down to more of a make-or-miss type of situation where, Chris Paul and Matt Barnes were combined 0 for 8 from 3. As a team, they only shot 42%. So this wasn't like a horrible game. I mean, they even out-rebounded Oklahoma City. So this wasn't this horrible 3 quarters where the Thunder just dominated and made the Clippers look bad. I mean, the Clippers missed, and they didn't turn the ball over a ton, so it wasn't like this super disruptive Thunder defense. How confident should the Clippers be at this point that they're not only, Matt can not only match up talent-wise, but are probably more versatile in terms of where they can get their offense from? How confident is this Clippers team going into Oklahoma City?
Well, I think they're confident because they realize that, you know, they've lived to see another day as far as extending this series, and now it's all squared away. The mindset changes. You know, you're going to get a better production, I think, out of Blake Griffin. He shouldn't be in foul trouble. You know, that was one of the issues as well, is that, you know, I think the Clippers at one point, they did virtually everything you could do to really let go of a game, but you had the encouragement of a player like Darren Collison, you know, Jamal Crawford, just the energy that they brought. Even Danny Granger. You know, I didn't think that I would be speaking of Danny Granger in these playoffs as far as being able to have some type of impact. So you have that, and we all know that in the game of basketball, in the game of sports, period, you know, it's not over till the fat lady starts singing, as they say. So they don't hear nobody warming up, Izzy. And, you know, when you don't hear that, then you should be prepared to do your best and bring about a change, because they definitely have an opportunity to. They can get better in each series, each game of the series by the adjustments they make. It's just a matter of whose will is going to be more forceful than anything else.
Well, there was one stretch in the fourth quarter where the Clippers scored on 18 of 19 possessions. So my guess is, yeah, that brings up their confidence. That makes them think they can kind of do whatever they want to do. But it's also the area where, you know, Scotty Brooks was right. As much as we want to harp on the offense and their inability to get things done, when you're giving up points that easily, when you're taking the ball from underneath the basket every time, taking it from out of bounds because the team's scoring on you every time, it's going to make the offense more difficult. So you just got to make life more difficult for the Clippers and find ways to get cheap offense that way, because frankly, you know, the way this offense runs and the way those Clippers can throw different defensive matchups at you, you're not going to be able to score at an efficient rate when you keep just walking the ball up every time. Plus, it takes out one of your biggest strengths, and that's Russell Westbrook. I mean, heck, he beat Darren Collison late in that game off the dribble from half court and was able to get all the way to the rim for what looked like a key bucket at the time. So it definitely, you know, again, as much as you want to harp on that offense and really be critical of Westbrook and Durant and their inability to score when they're, you know, two of the best offensive players in the game, it's amazing what's going to happen when you don't allow, you know, the Clippers to convert as regularly as they did. So we'll see what happens in that one. That's clearly the best series so far, but we're going to move on to the Pacers and Wizards and see if the Pacers can close out after this break.
Is there anything worse than buying razors? You've got to drive to the store, find a parking spot, find the locked plastic razors fortress, and the one guy who has the key is on break. Then, when you finally get to the register, it's $20. Madness! Don't put yourself through that. Join DollarShaveClub.com for a couple of bucks a month. DollarShaveClub.com will ship amazing quality blades and other cool bathroom stuff right to your door. Every month, like clockwork, you get a package in the mail with everything you need for a great shave. Their blades are just as good as the big boys at a fraction of the price. Not an everyday shaver? Join the club and opt for delivery every other month. With DollarShaveClub.com, there's no trudging to the store for overpriced blades, no more cutting up your face by squeezing one too many shaves out of that last blade in the pack, and most importantly, no more plastic razor fortress. They've got more than razors, too. You got to try their Dr. Carver's Easy Shave Butter, the best thing you can put on your face before shaving it. Join me, everyone, at NBA Lockdown and the hundreds of thousands of guys who have upgraded to the smarter way to shave. Shave time, shave money. Join DollarShaveClub.com/Bruce. That's DollarShaveClub.com/Bruce.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The Miami Heat have won the 2013 NBA title.
Major League Baseball.
The Boston Red Sox have won the World
The
Series.
Bulls Championship Series.
The tide has risen again, the third time in 4 years.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
We got to win Game 5. I mean, that's our only mindset. Like I just said, momentum changes with every single game, no matter what. With 0-0, 3-0, 3-1, it doesn't matter. And in the playoffs, you can't give your opponent any edge, any momentum. So, we got to stay hungry and come out and get Game 5.
That was Frank Vogel after his team went up 3-1, making their own crazy comeback against the Washington Wizards in D.C. All right, Bruce, we've been wondering when it's going to happen, when we can officially say the Indiana Pacers are back to being the Indiana Pacers. So this time, are the Pacers back? That is the right answer. Just so you know, that is still the correct answer.
I want to say yes, but then again, my gut says, hey, you know this team. There's nothing consistent about this team right now except inconsistency. So I do believe that they will get things together at home. I think they've seen the blueprint being that they need to just defend, not just defend. I mean, they need offensive execution as well, but I think it's more nuggets to build on and making that bar of gold right now for them than they had, say, in the series against the Atlanta Hawks. So I think that, Paul George has found his rhythm with the game he had a few days ago in Washington. And the fact that now you're coming home where you're comfortable, and it says a lot with players as far as being able to see the ball go in the basket when they shoot. Not just layups, but shooting jump shots. I mean, he was 7 for 10 last outing, so I'm sure his confidence is up, and rightfully so. But I think that the key ingredient of all of this is the fact that they haven't been worrying about the offense so much, but more or less focused on the defense. And coaches always say this, Izzy, don't worry about our offense. Let's allow our defense to dictate what we need, and so that we can just play the game on the offensive end. Well,
let's focus on what the Wizards need to do here in order to be able to steal this game and stay in this series, because the key number one key to me, based on what we saw in the first round and what's been lacking so far in this series, is Nene. Okay, in the 3 wins that he was a part of in that Chicago series, now remember he was suspended for one of those wins, and so in the 3 wins he was a part of in that Chicago series, scored 24, 17, and 20, but most importantly, shot better than 58% in each of those 3 games. Okay, 58.8 in one game, 61.5 in another, and 64.7 in another. So he was incredibly efficient and, frankly, dominant for stretches of that series. So far in this series, not so much. The first game that they won, he was only 6 of 16, only got to the foul line 4 times. Game 2, he actually had his best game, at least numbers-wise, shot 50%, 14 and 5, but they still lost that game. And then in these last 2 games, Game 3, 3 of 14 from the field for 8 points. Game 4, 5 of 14 for 10 points. And not rebounding the ball particularly well either, averaging 4.3 rebounds in this series. Is it strictly a matchup situation where he's just got a lot less room to operate with a David West, Roy Hibbert, Jan Mahimi, whoever else you throw out there for the Pacers? Or are you seeing something that the Wizards and the Nene just aren't doing the same as they did in that Chicago series?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's more or less about the defense that he's dealing with now. I mean, you have Roy Hibbert. Every time he sticks his hands up, he creates a different scenario for players. He might block your shot, or you're worried about him blocking your shot whenever you start the process of going into a move when you're posting up. And then their defense gets set. We've known that Indiana has been a good defensive team throughout the season. So that's what you're seeing as well against this young group, against the Washington Wizards. I think whenever you have an inside player, looking to shoot jump shots more than anything else, or I should say settling for jump shots, and you're not getting anything in a misdirection play, I think that puts a lot of pressure on the offense. Now you have to make shots. Now you have to get production on the offensive end because of that. But if you don't, as you say, all the missing of shots and shooting below 40% at times, it leads to transition opportunities. And that's a little more demoralizing as a team when you're constantly like, oh, man, here we go again. We're in transition. We're defending. And it doesn't help. You need to get offensive execution, get him down low on the block where he can make quick moves as compared to trying to back down a player like Roy Hibbert.
Well, maybe I'm a little too harsh on on Nene here because his buddy Marcin Gortat hasn't been doing a whole lot either. In these last couple of games, he's combined 3 of 10 for 6 points. He's been hitting the boards pretty well, averaging nearly double figures in the series, but not much of a factor at all. Only played 21 minutes for his 2 points and 3 rebounds. So it probably does come down to a matchup situation there in the front court, which takes me then to the back court where you've got John Wall and Bradley Beal. Now, Bradley's been fairly consistent in this series, okay, and even in that Game 4 loss, Beal still had, 20 points, 5 assists, shot 7 of 14, and only had 1 turnover. So he wasn't the problem. It's obvious John Wall needs to give you a little bit more. I mean, 12 points, 7 assists, 5 turnovers, 4 of 11 shooting. I don't know if it's a confidence thing with him, if it's an inexperience thing with him, if it's just him struggling with that classic point guard struggle. Do I look to score? Do I look to pass? Should he be more aggressive, though? Should he look for a little bit more of his own and then anticipate that other team, the offense will open up for other guys as a result?
Well, I mean, with the young team is you don't want him to start doing that because then, no one else gets involved. I think one of the things that we got to take into account is that, Indiana's a good defensive team, and each time, that these players have had decent games, they come back and they're not getting consistency. So a lot of it has to do with the defense, and I think when you start to take that into account, it goes back to the offensive execution. We can't just go one pass and shot. We need to move the ball around. We need to get more opportunities within our offense to utilize our attacking players. John Wall, even Bradley Beal being able to break guys down. When you have a player like, Bradley Beal, if everyone in the building knows that he's shooting a jump shot, then they're going to load up. They're going to do things to take that away. So I think it's more important to get movement and get that set defense off of being just so set where you have to always create shots one-on-one. As once he starts going one-on-one, it's not the best thing for the Washington Wizards. I think it's important that you continue to, utilize some type of offense where you get the ball moving one side of the floor to the other, and then maybe it's stagger screen or something for him coming off of a pin down. I think when you have him in that scenario, now it's not as much pressure on him with the ball to necessarily carry their team.
I thought it was funny. Frank Vogel said after Game 3, or leading into Game 4, that when Roy Hibbert scores, it really gets everybody else going. And it was the exact opposite of what he said before, where he said, we don't care about his scoring, we just need him to defend and rebound, and that's what he's great at, and, the scoring will come from there. So it's kind of funny that all of a sudden, he turns it around and says, hey, when Roy's scoring, we really get going because he gets everybody else excited. Well, I think that's a product of how bad he's been struggling. To see him score at all really gets everybody going because, they're just happy to see their big guy happy and performing well and that he can actually be back. But what have you seen out of Roy? Because, 17-9 with 2 blocks Sunday, and it felt like, it seems like every time he hits a shot that he's running down the court smiling and feeling really good about himself. I don't know if it has anything to do with Andrew Bynum being gone. I don't know if it has anything to do with anything at all other than him just being back into a rhythm offensively. But it seems like when he's playing well, everybody else in that Pacers team just plays a little bit faster even. And I know after Game 1, I just thought that team looked like they were stuck in mud. Games 2, 3, and 4, they've looked significantly quicker. They've just looked like they've been able to attack better, and defensively have been moving better. And it all seems to coincide with Roy Hibbert really picking up his game. Is it really that simple that this team can just really get rejuvenated because Roy Hibbert is playing better?
Well, I think they are happy for him, and it does pick their team up when he scores. I mean, they know that he's defending, so getting the scoring is an added bonus. So now when he is scoring, it's like, okay, all right, now let's get back to our defense. We know that when he's running back down court because he scored, they have an opportunity to set up their D. They're not trying to get back in transition. But where the issue was is when he was just trying to score without the defense. So now he's bringing the defense first and foremost, which energizes other guys. I remember times Steve Smith would say things like, "Woo, I saw Bruce in the defensive position. It made me want to get in the defensive position." Now, did it happen? Sometimes. But, I mean, we're talking about Steve Smith, one of the best at scoring at his size, 6'8", 6'8", being able to do it on the block, create his own shot. But it becomes infectious, Izzy, when you have guys, getting down that defensive stance. You see the energy picks up. We've seen it with the Miami Heat. We talk about when they swarm out there. It just looks like they actually have 7 guys on the floor instead of 5. So, yes, it is infectious when you see a player like Roy Hibbert do what he does, because it allows the Indiana Pacers to be that special group that we've seen throughout the season.
Well, we'll see what happens in this one. It seems like an inevitability that the Pacers are going to move on to the conference finals. Could be that they move on to before Miami does, and that would be pretty shocking, when you think about where the two teams, where the Pacers were anyway, just a couple of weeks from now, and they could be literally just sitting at home waiting on the Heat and saying, "Come on, Heat, come on!" It's exactly what we wanted from the beginning of the season. Game 1, conference finals, our house, and we're playing well. It would be quite the turnaround, but we'll have to see. Obviously, the Pacers have been such a roller coaster; it wouldn't shock anybody, I don't think, for the Wizards to come into game number 5 and take one back from Indiana. But that's going to do it for this edition of the NBA Lockdown Podcast. For Bruce Bowen, I'm Israel Gutierrez. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the NBA Lockdown. For more great podcasts, visit the Pod Center page at ESPNradio.com.
For his birthday, I want to send my godson to a playoff game. With the 4-star rated Western Union app, I can send him money conveniently from anywhere and make sure it gets there by tip-off. WesternUnion.com is making things so simple nowadays, and right now, they've got a special promotion going on. Download the free Western Union mobile app, and if you're a new customer, you can send money for 0 fee by using the promo code 2014-2014.
One discount per transfer, no cash value, void where prohibited. This offer expires May 18th. Western Union also makes money from currency exchange.